Right, we've just finished talking about the humoral adaptive immune system. We are now talking about the cell-mediated response within that same response. Okay, cell-mediated response is all about T cells, and we have a huge range of different T lymphocytes or T cells, right? We have helper cells, cytotoxic T cells, Tregs or regulatory T cells, and memory T cells. So again, our main ones that we're going to talk about are helper or cytotoxic, but they all have a role to play. All right, so here are the roles. These are straight out of your summary notes, but we'll talk about them in context first. So let's talk about APCs. And APCs are antigen-presenting cells. Now, these types of cells I'm going to talk about are dendritic cells, and these actually appear in the innate immune system. These are not new to you, right? And these cells take in a foreign invader, so a pathogen of some description, and what they do is they present the antigen on the outside of their cell membrane, okay? And what this does is it actually attracts T cells. Once the T cell is there, it binds and activates the T cell. Okay, so nice little image there, right? And this T cell will bind to that little antigen fragment, okay, and it activates a signal transduction pathway in the T cell. So when I say it activates it, it is doing all these chemical processes, reactions that leads to proliferation. So they divide and create more of them, and they can sometimes also release cytokines, so those chemicals that can kill off different types of pathogens. These newly formed T cells, they differentiate into all those different types of helper T cells and all that kind of thing. So newly formed T cells do activate cytotoxic ones, and we also have killer T cells there, okay? And those killer T cells can kill off virus and bacteria-infected cells. They can also recruit other leukocytes or white blood cells. So they can lyse. So the cytotoxic T cells or killer T cells lyse infected cells. Our helper T cells enhance the response. So they're the ones doing the recruitment, and they can also activate B cells to produce antibodies. Tregs, they slow the response down. So they actually regulate if the infection is cleared. We don't want it to keep going, so we tone it down a little bit using Tregs. And memory T cells are similar to memory B cells, but they actually recruit other cells in future. So if they're circulating, meet the antigen they can match up with, then they can start to do the sort of recruitment job. All right, don't forget that the B cell and T cell and the humoral and cell-mediated responses, they interact, okay? These systems do not work in isolation, but they are incredibly complex, okay? The interactions can be so complex because there are so many different cell types. And then you also consider that you've got innate immune cells in there. There's a lot happening. So we've got our B cells producing antibodies. We've got our T cells actually activating those B cells. We've got T cells activating macrophages to come in and do that phagocytosis. We've got killer T cells doing direct killing of certain cells as well. We've got our antigen presenting cells which actually kick all these processes off. There are different depictions, and this is one of them, obviously. So in this case, we've got a B cell, and it has to be activated by a T cell in order for it to differentiate into the plasma and memory cells and therefore produce antibodies and continue down that pathway. But again, not only do the cell-mediated and humoral systems interact, but the innate and the adaptive response interact quite a lot, okay? So obviously at the end of this, we're going to need some of those phagocytic cells to come in and complete phagocytosis to remove some of those dead cells as well. And all those other kinds of recruiting leukocytes are kicking off phagocytosis, the inflammatory response, as well as the complement cascade. It's all happening simultaneously. In terms of a long-term response, we're talking here with the adaptive immunity about a trainable response. So, this is going to last much longer because it's learned to spot and eliminate specific kinds of pathogens. Now, that initial response can be really, really big because it's spitting out as many antibodies as it can to see what it is to catch that particular antigen. But eventually these numbers dwindle, okay? So if another infection occurs, that defense can be mounted really, really quickly, right? So the steep graph here shows, we know what we're doing, it's really specific, and we can clear that infection quickly. So sometimes and we'll talk more about this in a later lesson, sometimes if you get say a vaccine for something and you boost your antibody levels to that, you might need a booster vaccine later on down the track just to remind your body, hey, muscle memory, we can call it. Remember what this is, and we want to keep you in shape and ready to go in case you do see that pathogen again. Again, only 2 dot points, but quite a lot going on there, so please make sure you come prepared.